Welcome to Time Travel, unfolding stories that shaped our world. The History of Australia. Episode 3, From Penal Colony to Promised Land. Before its journey to becoming a modern nation, this land wore a very different badge, a penal colony of the British Empire. On a faraway shore, convicts arrived chained and uncertain, and a settlement grew from hardship and hope. This was the beginning of a transformation from exile to enterprise, from punishment to possibility. Welcome to Time Travel, the history of Australia, unfolding stories that shaped our world. In this episode, we follow the arrival of the First Fleet, the growth of convict labour, the impact on Aboriginal peoples and the land, and how a new society emerged from those origins. Part 1. Arrival of the First Fleet and the birth of the colony. In 1787-11, British ships set sail from Portsmouth carrying more than 1,400 people, including convicts, marines, sailors and officials. They intended to establish a penal settlement at Botany Bay. When they arrived on the 18th of January 1788, they found the land unsuitable, and on the 26th of January 1788, they moved to Port Jackson at what is now Sydney Cove. Governor Arthur Phillip took command of the new colony and faced immediate challenges: unfamiliar land, inadequate supplies, conflict with the local Eora peoples, and the need to produce food. Convicts were put to hard labour. They cleared land, built shelters, and laid the foundations of a European colony on Aboriginal land. The arrival of these settlers marked a turning point in Australia's story. Part 2. Life in the Penal Settlement and the Rise of the Free Society. Between 1788 and 1868, around 162,000 convicts were transported from Britain and Ireland to Australian colonies. The convict system grew beyond Sydney. There were penal settlements in Van Diemen's Land, now Tasmania, Norfolk Island, Moreton Bay and Western Australia. Conditions were brutal in many places. At Port Arthur in Tasmania, convicts deemed the worst offenders were held from 1830. Despite punishment and isolation, the system also allowed for early freedom. Many emancipated convicts obtained land grants, worked as free settlers, and helped build towns and agriculture. The Digital Panopticon, The Global Impact of London Punishments, 1780 to 1925. As the decades marched on, the colony slowly changed from a penal outpost to a society of free settlers, landholders and immigrants. Part 3. Impact on Indigenous peoples and the land. The colonisation of Australia did not occur in a vacuum. The land was inhabited for tens of thousands of years by Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples. The arrival of European settlement disrupted these societies through dispossession, disease and conflict. Traditional land management practices were replaced or suppressed. Convict-built infrastructure cut into country and altered landscapes. Indigenous peoples resisted, adapted and survived despite enormous pressures. This is a critical part of Australia's transformation and its ongoing legacy. Part 4. Transition to a new society and economic expansion. As the penal era declined in the mid-19th century, new forces took hold in the colony. Free immigration increased, gold was discovered and towns expanded. The former convict colony began to grow into a modern settlement. Infrastructure such as roads, ports, rail and towns were built, often using convict labour first and then free labour. Agriculture expanded, land was taken for grazing and wheat, and the economy diversified. By the time transportation of convicts officially ended in 1868, the foundations of a free society were well in place. By the time transportation of convicts officially ended in 1868, the foundations of a free society were well in place. Part 5. Legacy of the Penal Colony and Australia's Identity. The convict past shaped Australia in many ways. It left physical infrastructure, demographic patterns, social attitudes and cultural myths. Some convicts became wealthy landowners or entrepreneurs. Yet this history also left deep scars: forced removal of Indigenous peoples, cultural loss, inequality, and contested memory. The colonial era built a society born of both hardship and resilience. Today, Australians acknowledge this complex heritage. UNESCO and heritage alliances preserve convict-era sites. The story of convict origin has become part of national identity. From penal outpost to vibrant country, Australia's journey reflects transformation, reconciliation, and reinvention. The story that began with chains and clearance turned into a story of change, growth, and possibility. From the first convict steps on this land to new generations of settlers and citizens, the roots of modern Australia lie deep in this penal era. Join us in the next episode of Time Travel, The History of Australia, as we explore Episode 4, The Road to Federation, Birth of a Nation. Subscribe to Time Travel to continue the journey, and together let us keep unfolding the stories that shaped our world. Time Travel, The History of Australia, unfolding stories that shaped our world.